All right, so SHTF garden. I want to do a little bit of a follow-up. I just released a video the other day, and in that video I was talking about India upping their wheat exports to be able to help make up for Ukraine. And I also mentioned how the situation is changing very fast. Well, right after I recorded that, might have even been before I even uploaded it, it was this last Saturday. Apparently India has gone 100% 80 degrees around, and now they're banning exports. So it went from 12 million tons to 10 million tons because of heat damage, to possibly more than that, to now zero. And they're saying it's due to, rising prices in their own country. So with that being the case, I want to highlight how important that development is, them being the second largest wheat producer. And while I was at, I figured I'd walk around and show some of the stuff I'm doing, and also talk about the importance of storing stuff up. Like right here, let me go ahead and show it. Some of the potatoes I mentioned before that are in a video I haven't released yet. I planted these and stuff. So I got this bed's approximately 3 foot by 6 foot. There's a little bit space. It's not usable in the back because of the posts, the concrete from the posts. But this is one area where I've got potatoes. Those are red New Orleans. And you just keep on walking around, because last year I had done some experiments. I think it was last year, and it was where I had grown some rice in the kiddie pool and things like that to try and get some various grains produced on a small scale in the backyard. Okay, let's go with this. This is another potato bed. This right here in the front, I've got one row of German butterball, I think, and the rest is French fingerling. This is the other part of the video I haven't released yet. These are cuts where I took and cut up potatoes, and I got 5 different varieties in here. I got more red New Orleans. I've got Kennebec Blues. It's Blue Rondaks, not Kennebecs. German Butterball, Russet Gold, and Yukon Gold in here, and they're just starting to come up. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to show what's going on here. These are volunteer potatoes, these plants here, that I have popping up and over here, and there's maybe 1 or 2 more around the garden. And those are ones that I just planted that came from the store. And the whole point of the matter was, whenever I did the growing, the wind is killer. Hopefully it doesn't hurt the audio too bad. So when I did the rice experiment, stuff like that, I only got a handful of rice, like this much on the bottom of a half-gallon mason jar out of the kiddie pool. And so it's just not practical to grow stuff like that on a small scale. And it was neat to do as an experiment. It's fun, and that kind of stuff. But if you're going to try and get any kind of calories out of your garden, potatoes has to be where it's at. Potatoes, sweet potatoes, and you got some ones that have a little bit less calories. But I wanted to discuss that because the crunch time is really bad. So if you were trying to survive, let's say I had to live off what I just showed growing in here. Between these beds, my goal is 100 pounds of potatoes. That should be easily reached. I'll probably get more like 120 or 130 pounds out of the space I just showed. That one big bed's a 10 foot by 4 foot. The other one is kind of made of scrap wood. It's about 4.5 by about 4.5. And this other one I mentioned was 6 by 3. And then you have some sporadic volunteers. So let's say I get my 100 pounds or 120 pounds or whatever I end up getting like that. If I had no other inputs, which obviously you'd want to have more inputs. Like, I want to maybe enjoy my peaches. Although I can't imagine they'd be super high in calories. But anyways, if I had no other inputs, just looking at potatoes as my main staple crop, I would have to eat about 15 potatoes a day, average medium potato, to get a 2,000 calorie per day diet. That's somewhere around 7.5 pounds of potatoes per day per person. So if it were to be me surviving with what I'm growing now, I could maybe a month and some change, depending on how good the yield was, if that's all I had to eat every single day. It's not just me, there's 3 of us. So if you multiply that up by 3, and of course you can think of the numbers, you know, women might need less, kids might need less. But then you're talking 20 pounds, 21 pounds of potatoes, 22 pounds of potatoes per day. My 1 month, maybe a month and some change, now becomes about a week where that amount of potatoes would sustain us. So the only solution would be to cut back on calories, which I need to anyways. But aside from that, I just want to throw out how difficult it is to get enough calories solely from garden stuffs. Now, I'm obviously a big believer in growing, and these potatoes will help to supplement what's already in the freezer, supplement the canned goods that's already there. I'm gonna have beans. I'm gonna plant soon. I'm gonna have, other stuff as well. But I kind of wanted to highlight, get people thinking about, if you cannot get a hold of, or it's prohibitively expensive, of wheat, start thinking about other places these calories could be coming from. Now, if you have a stockpile of wheat, a thick slice of homemade bread is about like equivalent to a potato in calories. So if you're making, let's say you got a bread machine, you're making 2-pound loaves, you can get some good calories out of that. But another thing to consider that's strictly for just trying to meet caloric needs is vegetable oil, as you also get about the same amount, maybe a little less. I think it's a teaspoon. I have to look it back up. But something like a teaspoon of vegetable oil is like 100 or over 100 calories. So if you were making that vegetable or soup with potatoes and corn and whatever you got laying around, beans, green beans, cabbage on the side, whatever you got, to make sure when you're stocking in yourself calories, meat obviously is the best source, but not to forget about oils when it comes to calories. And just think about how difficult it would be if you had to replace 2,000 calories per person. So it'd be almost impossible. So you definitely want to make sure you got some stuff stockpiled. It's going to get rough. And I want to give that update, and I got to thinking about that because I want to be able to make sure that people get to thinking about, okay, if I had to survive off the 100 pounds of potatoes out of my garden, that sounds like a lot. And it is a lot. But you need to have something more than just that. But that can help stretch the other stuff. So anyways, SHTF Garden out.